My name is Ananya Krishnan. I'm 27 years old. At my brother's wedding reception, my mother handed me a microphone and asked me to give a toast. I was standing there in a sari I had ironed myself, wearing earrings I had borrowed from my roommate, holding a glass of sparkling water because I couldn't afford the bar tab, surrounded by 340 guests in a venue that had cost, I would later calculate, exactly $94,000. The same amount that had been in my education fund 3 years earlier. The same amount that was supposed to pay for medical school. The same amount that had quietly disappeared while I was completing my undergraduate degree, working 2 jobs, and telling myself the fund would be there when I needed it. I took the microphone. I looked at my brother, who was smiling the way people smile when they have never once doubted they were loved. I looked at my mother, who was watching me with a particular expression of someone who believes that family loyalty and personal sacrifice mean the same thing. And I gave the most honest toast of my entire life. Not what they expected. Not what they asked for. What was true. If you're still here at the end of this story, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. And if you've ever been asked to celebrate something that was built on your loss, I want to hear from you. Let me start from the beginning. My parents immigrated from Tamil Nadu in 1991. My father, Suresh, came first on a student visa for his engineering program. My mother, Meena, followed 2 years later when they married. They settled in New Jersey in a 1-bedroom apartment they shared with 2 other families for the first year. I want you to understand what they built. My father worked 12-hour days for 8 years before he was promoted to the position he had originally been qualified for in India. My mother cleaned houses on weekends while working as a school cafeteria supervisor during the week. They saved with the ferocity of people who understand that money is not abstract. It is security, it is options, it is the difference between asking and not having to ask. By the time my brother Vikram was born in 1993 and I came along in 1997, they had a proper apartment, then a small house, then a slightly larger house. The trajectory was real, and it was earned. My parents also carried with them everything they had grown up with, including the particular weight of what a son means in a Tamil Brahmin family. I do not say this with bitterness because bitterness is too simple for what it actually is. It is a complex inheritance, a set of beliefs about family and obligation and what children owe parents and what parents owe children, that gets more complicated with every generation born somewhere new. Vikram was the son of our household. That's not cruelty. It's description. He was brilliant and charming and easy to love. He also knew, with the confidence of someone who has never had reason to doubt it, that he was the priority. I was the good daughter. Reliable. Academically strong. Quiet about what I needed. The one who figured things out. My parents loved me. I have never doubted that. But love and priority are different things, and in our house, they were not evenly distributed. When Vikram needed tutoring, they hired a tutor. When I struggled with AP chemistry, my father said, "You're smart, you'll figure it out." When Vikram wanted to study business at a private university, they covered his tuition fully. When I was accepted to a strong state university with a scholarship that covered 70% of costs, my mother said, "See how capable you are, you found your own way." The remaining 30% came from my earnings, waitressing, tutoring younger students, 1 summer of data entry that paid barely above minimum wage. But there was the education fund. My father had set it up when I was 9 years old, after my grandmother visited from India and gave us a meaningful sum of money, her life savings, essentially, divided between her grandchildren. My grandmother had looked at me across the dinner table one evening and said, in Tamil, "This one is going to be a doctor." It was not a question. My father set up the account. $30,000 from my grandmother's gift, added to over the years with intention. By the time I finished undergraduate, it had grown to approximately $94,000. I knew it existed. My father had mentioned it several times. "It's there for medical school." He said it the way you say something you believe is settled. Not a promise so much as a fact about the future. I graduated in May 2021 with a 3.89 GPA, strong MCAT scores, and applications submitted to 11 medical schools. I was waiting to hear back. I was also waiting, with a particular kind of quiet certainty, for the conversation about the fund. The conversation never happened the way I expected. In August 2021, Vikram announced his engagement. Her name was Preethi. She was from a family my mother described as good family, which in our household meant a specific combination of caste, profession, and social standing that I had grown up understanding as a kind of shorthand for belonging. The wedding was planned for April 2022. My mother began planning with an energy I had never seen directed at anything I had ever done. The venue was selected in September. The catering was booked in October. The invitations, hand-calligraphed, I was told, were ordered in November. Jewelry was purchased. A wedding planner was hired. Plane tickets were bought for 47 relatives from India, whose accommodations were also arranged and largely covered. I was completing my medical school applications. I was working. I was watching. In November 2021, I asked my father about the education fund. We were in the kitchen after dinner. My mother was in the other room. I sat down and said, as clearly as I could, "Dad, I need to talk about the education account. I'm going to need to know what's available when I get acceptances." He looked at me. Something crossed his face, a flicker of something I didn't have a name for at the time. "Let's wait until things settle down with the wedding," he said. "Then we'll sit down properly. The wedding is in April. Acceptance letters come in March. Ananya." His voice had that particular quality, the one that meant the conversation was over. "Let's not add to everything right now. The fund is there. It's not going anywhere." I believed him. I went back to my room. I pulled up my acceptance tracker. I studied. I worked my shifts. I did not ask again until March 15th, 2022. I received my first acceptance letter. Then, over the following 10 days, 3 more. The one I wanted most, a school with a strong research focus in the city I had chosen, came on March 24th. I sat in my car in the parking lot of the restaurant where I worked and read the email on my phone and cried the way you cry when something you have worked for without any certainty arrives. I called my mother. "I got in," I said. She said, "Which one?" I told her. "Oh," she said. "That's wonderful." A pause. "Your brother's suit fitting is tomorrow. Don't forget you said you'd drive him." I drove Vikram to his suit fitting the next day. That evening, after dinner, I asked my father to sit down with me. I had printed out the acceptance letter and the financial aid package and a budget breakdown I had made on a spreadsheet: tuition, fees, housing, estimated costs for 4 years. I put it on the kitchen table. My father looked at it. "The fund," I said. "Can we talk about it now?" He did not look at me when he answered. "Ananya," he said, "the wedding has been expensive. We've had to make some decisions." The air in the room changed. "What decisions?" "Some of the account was used. For the deposits, the venue, the travel." "How much?" A long pause. "Most of it. Most of it." I heard my own voice saying the words, but I felt separated from them. "Dad, how much is left?" He told me. $11,000. Out of $94,000. $83,000 had been used, gradually, beginning the previous September, to fund a wedding for my brother. I sat with that number. "You used my education fund," I said. Not loudly. Not a question. "It was family money," he said. "It came from the family. Weddings are for the whole family." "Grandma gave that to me," I said. "She said I was going to be a doctor. She gave it to me for that." "Grandma is not here to know what was needed. She's not here because she died," I said. "And what she left me is gone." My mother appeared in the kitchen doorway. She had been listening. Her expression was the careful neutral of someone who had known this conversation was coming and had decided in advance how to weather it. "Ananya, this is not how families work," she said. "We give and we take. Vikram will be established. He will support the family. His wedding was important. My medical school is important. You are strong. You will find loans. You will manage. That is what you do. I will manage. That was it. That was the whole of their accounting. I was the one who managed, so it was acceptable to remove my resources because I would manage without them. I stood up from the table. I need to think, I said. I went to my room. I sat on the edge of my bed. I did not cry that night. I was too far past the point where crying would have helped anything. I opened my laptop. I looked at loan calculators. I looked at scholarship databases. I looked at the gap between what medical school would cost and what I now had. The gap was enormous. I thought about my grandmother, her hands, her voice across the dinner table saying this one is going to be a doctor. I thought about the money she had saved over a long life and the intention she had attached to it. I thought about the suit fitting, the 47 relatives, the hand-calligraphed invitations. I thought about what it means to be the one who manages. I went to the wedding. Of course I went. They are my family. Vikram did not know what had happened. He was not told, and I did not tell him, because the situation was not his fault even if its consequences fell on me. Preeti was warm and kind and had done nothing wrong. 340 people had come from 3 continents to celebrate something real. I ironed my sari. I borrowed earrings. I went. For most of the reception I was fine, in the way that you can be fine at a surface level while something deeper is doing something else entirely. I ate. I danced the dances I was supposed to dance. I smiled at relatives I saw once a year. At 8:30, my mother found me near the dessert table and handed me a microphone. "Toast," she said simply. "You're next." I looked at the microphone in my hand. I looked at the room, 340 people, the decorations that had cost what they had cost, my brother and his new wife at the center table, my father standing near the bar looking at me with an expression that contained something I recognized as hope. Hope that I would do what I always did. Manage. Absorb. Perform the role of the good daughter without the good daughter's resources. I thought about what I had prepared. Safe words. Kind words. The toast you give when you love your brother and the occasion is real and you understand that public moments are not the place for private pain. I thought about my grandmother's voice. This one is going to be a doctor. I thought about the gap between $94,000 and $11,000. I raised the microphone. I want to say something real, I said. Because Vikram deserves real words. The room settled. People like real. My brother has always known he was loved in this family. I mean that as a fact, not a critique. He has always known. He has never had to wonder. I looked at Vikram. He was smiling. I grew up knowing I was loved too. But I also grew up knowing I was the one who manages. The one who finds a way. The one who doesn't need what others need because she is strong enough not to need it. The room was very quiet. Our grandmother, Potty, told me when I was 9 years old that I was going to be a doctor. She meant it as a prophecy. I took it as a challenge. I have spent 18 years working toward the thing she saw in me. My mother's expression had shifted. My father was very still. I got into medical school this month. 4 schools. The one I wanted most. A ripple of sound in the room. Congratulations beginning to form. I found out this week that the funds set aside for that education, the money Potty left for me specifically, was used for this wedding. $83,000. Gone. The sound stopped. I'm not saying this to hurt my family. I'm saying it because Vikram is the kind of person who would want to know the truth about what surrounded his happiness. Because truth is what real love looks like. And because I promised my grandmother, across a dinner table when I was 9, that I was going to be a doctor. I turned to Vikram. I'm still going to be a doctor, I said. Nothing that happened changes that. I will manage. I always do. I lowered the microphone. Congratulations, Vikram. Congratulations, Preeti. I love you both. I set the microphone on the table. The room held its breath for 3 seconds. Then someone, I never found out who, began to clap. Slowly. Then more. Not the polite applause of a toast that has ended. Something else. Something that sounded like acknowledgement. What happened after I sat down is something I will tell you about carefully because the details matter. Vikram left the head table. He crossed the room, walked directly to me, and crouched down beside my chair. He said, "I didn't know." "I know," I said. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because it wasn't your fault. And because tonight was supposed to be your night." He looked at me for a long moment. "Come outside," he said. We went outside. The courtyard of the venue, evening air, the sound of the reception muffled behind us. Vikram was still in his wedding suit. I was still holding my borrowed earrings, which I had taken off because one was pinching. "Tell me everything," he said. I told him. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he said nothing for a while. Then he said, "What do you need?" I told him the number. The gap. What loans would cost me over the life of a medical career. He nodded. He looked at his hands. "I'm going to fix this," he said. "Vikram. Not tonight. But I'm going to fix this. What was taken from you is coming back." I started to say he didn't have to. He stopped me. "Patti told me too," he said. At the same dinner table. She said, "Your sister is going to be a doctor. You make sure she gets there." A pause. I forgot. I let things happen around me and I forgot. I'm not forgetting again. He went back inside to his wedding. I sat in that courtyard for 20 minutes, looking at the sky. My parents found me in the courtyard. My mother sat down first. My father stood. They had spoken to Vikram. He had apparently been direct with them in a way I had never been able to be. The particular directness that is available only to the favored child, who has nothing to lose by speaking. My mother said, "We made a mistake." I looked at her. "We thought, you are always capable. We thought you would find a way. We told ourselves the fund was family money and the family needed it." She stopped. "We were wrong." My father sat down on my other side. "Your grandmother gave that money for you," he said. "And we used it. We will spend the rest of our lives knowing that." "I don't want you to spend the rest of your lives knowing it," I said. "I want to go to medical school." "You will," my father said. "We will fix this. Not tomorrow. But this will be fixed." I did not cry in that courtyard. I had been past tears for months. But I reached out and took my mother's hand and my father's hand and held both of them, and we sat there for a while in the evening air, not saying anything more. It has been 3 years since the wedding. I am in my 2nd year of medical school. The one I wanted. The research focus, the city I chose. The first year was funded through a combination that I will be honest about, a partial repayment from my parents, not the full amount, but a significant portion that covered the first year's gap. A scholarship I found and applied for and received. Loans for the remainder, which I am carrying with the clear-eyed awareness of what they cost and what they are worth. Vikram and Preeti made a private financial arrangement with me, a loan, formalized, with terms we agreed on. He insisted. The money arrives monthly, reliably, without drama. We do not discuss it at family dinners. It is between us. My relationship with my parents is what it is. It is not destroyed. It is not repaired in the way that some things repair, seamlessly, as though the break never happened. It is something else. Something that knows what it went through and has chosen to continue anyway, with different expectations and clearer eyes. My mother calls every Sunday. She asks about my studies. She asks about my patients. I have started clinical rotations and come home full of stories about the people I am learning to help. She listens better than she used to. I think the wedding toast did something to her understanding of me. I think she saw something she had not been looking at directly. My father came to visit me at school last year. He walked through the hospital where I do rotations. He saw my name on a locker in the residence hallway, though I am not yet a resident. Someone had made an error and put it there early, and I had not corrected it because I liked seeing it. He stood in front of that locker for a long time. Then he said, "Your grandmother was right." "Yes," I said. "She was." I think about Potty often. About what she saw when she looked at me across that dinner table. About the certainty in her voice. Not hope, not wish, but certainty. This one is going to be a doctor. She saw it before I did. She prepared for it. She trusted the thing she saw. I am trying to be worthy of that trust every single day. I gave a toast at my brother's wedding that nobody expected. I said true things in a room full of people who wanted comfortable things. I did it because I had reached the point where the alternative, performing gratitude for something built on my loss, was no longer something I was capable of. I do not think I was brave. I think I was simply at the end of a very long road and there was nothing left to lose. What I did not expect was that truth, spoken clearly in the right room, would do what it did. Would reach my brother before it reached my parents. Would pull something true out of a wedding night that had felt like the end of something. Vikram told me later that he had been thinking about Potty's words since that evening. That he had started a conversation with our parents that took months but arrived somewhere real. That he had told them, "You cannot keep asking Ananya to manage and calling it a compliment." They heard him in a way they had not been able to hear me. That is painful to acknowledge. It is also simply true, and I have made my peace with the shape of it. I am going to be a doctor. Potty knew. I am beginning to know it too. Not as a goal, not as something I am working toward, but as something I already am in the process of becoming, daily, irreversibly. The earrings were my roommates. The sari was my own. The words were true. That is enough. That has always been enough. If you are the one who manages, if you are the reliable one, the capable one, the one whose needs get assumed away because you will figure it out, I want you to hear this. Managing is not the same as not needing. Figuring it out is not the same as it being fine that you had to. Strength is not a reason for others to subtract from you. You are allowed to say what was taken. You are allowed to name the gap between what you were promised and what arrived. You are allowed to do that at a microphone in front of 340 people in borrowed earrings if that is what the moment requires. You are not required to give a comfortable toast for an uncomfortable truth. You are required only to tell the truth, and then go do the thing you were always going to do anyway. That's all.